Welcome to another update from Elixir's voyage around the world. My name's Max, and over the last 3 years, I've sailed from the UK all the way to the Pacific coast of Mexico with a constantly changing crew of friends. We kicked off the Pacific leg of this journey with 1,000 miles of coastal sailing from Panama to Mexico. We pulled Elixir out of the water in a boatyard in Chiapas, and for the 4-month hurricane season, I took a break from sailing. It had been a few years since we pulled Elixir out in a boatyard, and there was a long jobs list that had to be completed before we could sail again. But thankfully, I had two of my mates from back home, Chloe and Will, to help out with the labour, and after a few sweaty weeks in the boatyard, we were back on the water again. A lot of people came and went as we made our way north through Mexico. Elixir basically became a floating youth hostel. It was amazing. We love this country. It was almost too much fun, and I can't wait to share it all with you. I just got back to Elixir, a little bit moldy, I think, to be expected. She's not full of water and the batteries are fully charged. Doesn't seem to be anything living inside here. A little bit smelly, but I think we'll just clean her up and she should be okay. So fingers crossed, no unexpected jobs that we've come back to, which is great. Feels great to be back home again. Back in Chiapas, so hot after spending 4 months in the UK. I can't wait to get back on the water and get sailing again. Let's have a little look in the head, shall we? I mean, it's all right. I don't think it's going to take too much to get her going. As you can see, we've got a bit of mold going on. Even my aloe plant's still alive. Maybe not that one. Yeah, I'm excited to crack on with everything. It feels good to be back. Before we get into the video, we need to ask you for a favour. Please put a smile on the faces of the Elixir crew by subscribing to our channel so that we can reach our target of 15,000 subscribers before we leave to cross the Pacific. Thank you. Before I can start with any of the jobs, I'm just obviously going to give her a bit of a clean up. Something that I was quite surprised about was the amount of things living on her, including this guy. I literally have no idea how he got up here and how long he's been here, or how I'm going to get him down, but this is who I found on the deck when I came back. It seemed like the humid tropical climate had really taken its toll on Elixir. Everything was very moldy, and clearly it was going to take a long time to clean the boat. It was the beginning of the dry season in Chiapas, which means we no longer had to worry about torrential downpours and being struck by lightning. But it was hot, and ahead of us we had at least a few weeks of hard work beneath the harsh Mexican sun. When we were sailing up from the Panama Canal, we had a problem with the heat exchanger on the engine. Since I went back to the UK, I decided to bring back a new one, which you can see here. And I'm just in the process of taking the old one off, and it's pretty bad and corroded. It doesn't look very nice, but I've managed to get all of the bolts off, and it was surprisingly easy as well. I thought they were going to be really stiff and really corroded, but they all came undone pretty fast. So now I should just be able to tap the whole heat exchanger off and yeah, get it off. So I'm going to have a go at that now. So let's see how that goes. So there it is. You can see how it's been leaking and it's just formed this horrible buildup of salt. Yeah, it feels really good to get it off actually, because every time I had to switch the engine on, I just couldn't stop thinking about how this thing was always leaking. The last thing I have to do now is take the exhaust off, so I'll probably take it over to the bench in the yard to do that. As you can see, there's quite a lot of corrosion, and to be honest, I'm amazed this thing lasted so long. It's a bit like opening up a can of worms, because the more I dig, the more I find. And you can see that there was this pretty shoddy repair that I did in Costa Rica where all this epoxy's dried around it. But yeah, I'm just trying to split off the exhaust elbow because I think I'm going to keep that, because that should be fine. It's only 3 years old. The heat exchanger, I think its days are over. There's the exhaust off. Right now I'm preparing the engine block for the new heat exchanger to go back on, and this involves putting a gasket in between the engine and the heat exchanger. And before putting this gasket on, it's really important to make sure the face of the engine block is clean. So I'm just giving it a little brush with some wet and dry. That way we can be sure that the gasket is going to seal properly and there's not going to be anything leaking, because that is very important. I only have one gasket, so we have to get it right. Guess who's arrived today?
Hiya! Hiya! Yeah, my name's Chloe. I'm from Falmouth as well as Max, and I'm finally back on the boat after a 2-year hiatus. I was a big part of the restoration, and it's been 2 years and I'm back to my favourite stuff, cleaning up the boat.
To have Chloe back on board, she's one of the OGs. If you own a boat, it's inevitable you'll spend time in a boatyard. We spent thousands of hours in the UK getting Elixir ready for this journey, and there was something familiar about being back on the hard in Mexico. The work is tiring, dirty and tedious, but having a few friends to help you out makes the whole process a lot easier. We weren't allowed to stay on Elixir in the boatyard, which was probably a good thing, because at the end of each day we could escape the dust, mold and mosquitoes. So we made the most of our new social media clout and found some free and discounted stays in some of the nearby hostels and Airbnbs.
I am currently scrubbing a very dirty spray hood, which has been across quite a few oceans and seas now, so it's very dirty. You can see all of the gross water coming off. I did quite a good job on the frame yesterday. He's going to clean out the bilge.
Well, I just think it's important to have a clean bilge. I like to start with all the most disgusting places first, and then gradually work my way up. I've done the engine bay, now it's the bilge, and then maybe the head. That's pretty gross.
You know what they say? Never mess with a sailor with a dirty bilge.
Do they say that?
That's exactly what they say. What have you got there, Max?
Bilge water.
Oh, I thought it was our lunch.
One of my favourite boatyard jobs is applying a new coat of anti-foul. The prep work is a bit of a slog and it can take a long time to properly sand the whole hull. We decided to slightly raise Elixir's waterline to account for all of the extra cruising gear we have on board. Painting is the fun part. With 2 people and some big paint rollers, we could apply the new paint really quickly, and within half an hour Elixir looked like a completely new boat.
A big moment. Now we see whether we stuck the tape down well enough. Ready?
Yeah. Goodness,
oh my gosh, look at that.
God.
Fresh. Better than sex. What a glow up.
After 4 months, the new heat exchanger, a little service, we're going to give the engine a go and see if she fires up. Fingers crossed, it'll be good. I serviced the starter motor before we left, so hopefully that's still good. Yeah, I'm just ringing up a hose to the cooling system so we can run it on the hard. So the engine didn't start the first time round, but luckily I remembered to bring a new starter motor and alternator, which I fitted, and now we're going to give it a second go, and hopefully she'll fire up. As you can see now, the engine is more silver than green, because we're slowly losing all of the original Volvo Penta bits and adding on new additions, but I think it's all good. After a few weeks in the boatyard, we managed to find a flow. Each day, we ticked another job off the list, and it was exciting to think that it wasn't long until we'd be sailing again. Buenos dias. We have one more job to do on Elixir before she goes back into the water, and that is the cutlass bearing, which is the little brass and rubber thing that sits inside here, the P-bracket, that holds the propeller shaft so that when it's spinning, it's still. And as you can see, there's a bit of play in the prop shaft, which basically means it definitely needs replacing. So to do that, I have to take the propeller off the prop shaft out of the boat, and then I can start to knock out the cutlass bearing and slide in a new one. It's a pretty difficult job, and I'm not really looking forward to it. My friend Will is going to bring out a new bearing, but yeah, so I've already taken the lock nuts and the pin from the back of the propeller. Now I have this, which is a puller, right? And I'm going to use the puller along with a bit of heat from the blowtorch to hopefully pull the propeller off the shaft. So we're going to see how it goes. I haven't had the propeller off for like 3 years. I'm expecting it to be quite stiff, but anyway, I'm going to give it a go now and see how it goes. The next step in removing the prop shaft is to disconnect it from the engine, which I'm doing right now. There we have the coupling, which is what connects the shaft to the gearbox, which is down there. I've got all the bolts out and I'm going to put a press on the end of it, and hopefully I'll be able to slide the prop shaft out, and then fingers crossed the whole thing should just slide out the back of the boat. So let's see. Now it's time to pull the shaft out. I've taken the coupling off, it's all disconnected inside the boat. My only worry is it going to be able to slide out without hitting the skeg? which is this part, and am I going to have to take that off as well? Hopefully no, but let's see how it goes. Looks like no. To change the cutlass bearing, I first had to remove the prop shaft. To do that, I had to remove the skeg, and to get the skeg off, I had to drop the whole rudder down. It seemed like a lot of steps just to replace a small part, but it had to be done. The skeg was bolted and glued onto the hull. It was stuck on there well, but with a combination of heat and force, I eventually managed to remove it. With the skeg off and the shaft out of the way, I could finally take a look at the old cutlass bearing. Oh, that's a relief. Yeah, there we go. You can see that I had to cut it with a hacksaw and sort of like fold it over to get it out. Here we have the old worn out cutlass bearing. Now we just have to wait for my friend Will to arrive with a new one so we can slide that in, put the shaft back in, lift the rudder up, put the skeg on, put the propeller on, and then we'll be ready to go in the water. My friend Will has arrived from the UK today, and we're going to replace the cutlass bearing, the old cutlass bearing that we pulled out the other day, and then we've got nice shiny new bronze bearing which we're going to slide into the bracket like that with a bit of grease and a bit of force. It uses water.
Okay.
It's like water as the lubricant. Ooh, it's quite hard. After we'd carefully tapped the bearing back in again, we put everything back together and Elixir was ready for splash day. It's always a bit nerve-wracking watching someone pick up your entire home, but at the same time it was incredibly satisfying knowing that we'd reached the end of our time in the boatyard. It was a tough few weeks, but we'd felt like we'd achieved a lot. Elixir not only looked great, but she was strong and seaworthy and almost ready to sail back out into the Pacific. She floated again without any problems, and after a few days in the marina, ticking off the final few jobs, we were ready for the next step of the voyage. So it's a big day today. We just left Chiapas and we're continuing our journey north with Will on board. This is his first time sailing on Elixir, although he has put in a lot of time in the boatyard. Come down a bit, mate. We're gonna tack.
We're about to stall.
You're about to tack.
Oh, shit.
Oh no.
Oh, shit.
Yeah, it's really nice to be out sailing again in the Pacific. The sun's just about to set and we're gonna sail through the night. It's like 220 miles. The next place is in Oaxaca. It's called Huatulco, and yeah, we should be there around about New Year's Day. We'll see. How does it feel to be back on the water?
Brilliant, love.
How does it feel to be back on the water watching the sunset?
It's really important to make time lapses of sunsets at sea. This time lapse ain't straight anymore.
No, isn't, is it?
It had been over 6 months since I last sailed Elixir, and it felt so good to be back on the water again. Sharing this passage with Chloe and Will made it all special. I've met a lot of fun and interesting people on this voyage, but there's nothing quite like spending quality time with your oldest and best friends. The wind was light and on the nose, but we still managed a consistent 4 knots. The boatyard already felt like a distant memory. The many sweaty hours of hard work and toil instantly became worthwhile. We were surrounded by dolphins and golden light, and I honestly felt like there was nowhere in the world that I would rather be.
Had to put the engine on for a bit. That was pretty warm in the cabin below. But yeah, all good. Rested. Didn't crash into any boats. Didn't hit the land. So all's good with me.
How's it going, Will?
Not bad.
Still on there?
Still fighting.
Oh my god.
Have a little. No, don't do that. Let's give him a bit of line. Have a little play. Now we're putting it.
Oh my god!
Oh, no!
Wait, I'm happy.
Fuck's sake!
What happened?
It just ripped off. It ripped himself off. Oh no! I've dropped the soap.
Oh no, he dropped the soap.
Don't drop the soap.
Nice sunburn.
He's so
Is it nice and red, is it?
Yeah. It's been 2 nights since we left Chiapas and we've been crossing the Gulf of Tehuantepec. It's a gap in the mountain range over the country of Mexico where the trade winds from the Caribbean Sea funnel between the mountains and then come into the Pacific, and they're basically really strong. This area is renowned for having really strong winds. Obviously we've been looking at the weather and we're sailing at a time when the winds are light like they are now. Because there's so much wind blowing offshore, it pushes water away from the coast and you get a lot of like cold water upwelling. Because of that, the water's really cold and there's a lot of nutrients, so we've seen loads and loads of like marine life and animals. There was a really thick fog. guess it's like the hot air condensing over the cold water. But anyway, we haven't had any really strong winds, which has been nice, and now we're like 70 miles away from Oaxaca, and hopefully we'll arrive tomorrow. Oh yeah, and tonight's New Year's Eve.
Yeah, it's been great to be back on Elixir after over 2 years without sailing. It's been quite gentle wind, so it's been good to get back into helming again and understand how she works. Yeah, it's been perfect. It's really warm, nice and sunny, a bit chilly last night. We had the full foul weather gear on and kind of covered in this layer of mist. And it was very eerie helming without being able to see the sails or even really be able to see the surface of the ocean to see if you were actually moving. But overall, really glad to be here.
How's your first overnight passage been?
Yeah, really good. Like, great fun. Well, this morning woke up with a cod on, pulling in a big old fish. What was it, Max?
The mahi mahi.
Mahi mahi. Yeah, it was a good fight.
Ooh.
I might let it run a bit. Just to get off the hook. Do you have a bit of cloth? Yeah. But you're covering the f***ing boat. Right. Coming in. Watch out.
Oh my god. You got him, mate.
Oh, we got him. Oh! Good morning, Chloe. Dragged it into the boat, and then basically we had it in the cockpit here, where Chloe just sleeps just below it with the window open, and it was a good metre-long fish flapping around in the cockpit. Took a little while, quite a big fish to fill it. Then we had it for breakfast, lunch, and we're going to probably have it for tea and probably breakfast tomorrow. Yeah, having a great fun. Good fun with the old mist last night. Couldn't see much. Listening to dolphins every now and again going. Yeah, that's me done.
On day 3, the wind dropped completely and we motored the final 20 miles into Huatulco. There were dolphins and turtles everywhere, and the bleached shoreline slowly grew from the distance. We were excited to make landfall, explore a new state and make some new friends. Since arriving in Mexico 6 weeks before, we had pretty much been working flat out and hadn't taken much time to explore the country. Marina Huatulco was a great place to moor Elixir, and we spent a few days being absolute tourists, making new friends and visiting as many attractions along the coast of Oaxaca as we could.
Hola, ¿cómo estás?
Bien, ¿y tú?
Bien, ¿cómo te llamas y de dónde eres?
Me llamo Sheila y soy de Perú.
¿Cómo tú piensas que la vida en el velero?
Wow, es increíble porque es un estilo de vida diferente que nunca había visto de tan cerca. Había escuchado, lo había visto en películas, pero nunca vivido. Y es el inicio, entonces me falta aprender un poco más.
Muy bien, ¿y tienes ganas para ir a ver la atardecer en el domingo? Vamos.
Mexico during the dry season is a great place to be in a sailing boat. The weather is great, there's no worry of storms, the people are friendly, it's safe, the food is amazing, and the Pacific sunsets are golden. After a few weeks in Oaxaca, we decided to sail north to Guerrero and the town of Zihuatanejo. Chloe left to meet some friends, and we found a new crewmate to fill her spot. We didn't have to look very far, and Elixir left the marina with her first ever all-male, all-English crew.
Hi, I'm Johnny, I'm from Yorkshire. I'm also in the process of building and renovating a boat, but an old oil rig lifeboat, and documenting it all on TikTok. The wind's been pretty hit and miss, but much better than the fishing. We've so far had 14 bites and 0 fish, so a bit of a losing battle. We left on Friday the 13th though, so that's probably the reason behind it. Not that it was superstitious or anything. We've come from Huatulco in Oaxaca State, and we're headed to Isla Roqueta, just outside Acapulco.
Yeah, nice.
Acapulco. It's about, what, 150, 160 nautical miles or something. Beautiful seas, beautiful skies, amazing sunsets, and so much wildlife. We've seen dozens of turtles every day and half a dozen pod of dolphins each day swimming up and around the boat, so it's been amazing, and one near whale sighting.
And Elixir continued her journey north along the seemingly endless Mexican coastline with a pasty crew of English boys trying their best not to get scorched by the unforgiving Mexican sun. Most other boats would have switched the engine on, but we were in no rush and made the most of each gentle gust that came our way. So this is your last trip on Elixir before you go back to the UK. How does that feel?
Great gutted. Don't want to go back to work, but can't get any better. Look at the sunset.
2.5 days out of Huatulco on our way to Zihuatanejo, but we're going to pull into this little island off Acapulco. Yeah, we've mostly been sailing upwind, which has been the case along the whole coast of Mexico. The prevailing winds blow from the north end of the country to the south end along the Pacific coast, so we've basically just been tacking, like we're sailing close haul now, but generally the seas are flat and it's still quite nice. We make like 4.5 knots sailing close to the wind. But we were still in Central America, and it's inevitable that at some point the conditions will glass off completely. It was so hot that we made the most of any opportunity to jump in for a swim. It's always surreal leaping into thousands of meters of seawater and looking up at Elixir in her element. Go on, Will. See in a bit.
Oh my god. Can you help?
Wait. You good? You good?
Oh, good.
Calms never last more than a few hours. Eventually the wind slowly fills in and Elixir starts to push through the water again. It's almost 1,000 miles from Chiapas to Puerto Vallarta, which is where we plan to leave from the Pacific crossing. The light headwinds made progress slow, and we only averaged between 60 to 80 miles each day. It was slow going compared to the 150-mile days that were common in the trade winds, but it didn't matter. Everyone on board was happy and it felt so good to be underway again. This had to be some of the smoothest sailing from the voyage so far, and it didn't take long to settle into some kind of routine. The season for crossing the world's biggest ocean was looming, and it wouldn't be long until we turned left and followed the sunset into the biggest passage of the trip so far. Come on, get him on, it's a tunny! Oh, get it on, shit! Hit the world. Tuna! Hey. Alright, so thanks again for watching another update from Elixir's voyage around the world. I apologise for my 8-month hiatus from posting any videos. The reason is I've been totally occupied with sailing Elixir across the Pacific, maintaining the boat, sailing the boat, never really having any access to Wi-Fi. It just hasn't been possible to keep up editing and posting videos because of the amount of time and effort I've had to invest into the boat to keep Elixir going. But now I'm in New Zealand, I've got time, so I'm going to roll out all of the content from the last year, and there's some really, it's so good. Like, we had an amazing experience crossing the Pacific, so much stuff happened, so many people joined the boat, and yeah, I'm really excited to share it all. If you want to help the production of these videos, then subscribe to this channel, and if you want to help the production even more, then subscribe to our Patreon. There's exclusive Patreon only content, it's really good, like podcasts and other stuff. And also, I've started to take Patreons on the boat, so if you're a Patreon, then you have the opportunity above anyone else to come sailing on Elixir. Or you could buy some merch, that will also help. We have some great organic cotton t-shirts, water-based ink, cool designs designed by our friends. But yeah, thanks again for watching. Loads more great content to come, and see you in the next video.